part 2 of this episode that where we're talking about facing the voice that asks, who do you think you are? This is part 2. And we ended with the second voice. So the first voice, fear voice, was the comparison voice. The second fear voice was the qualification voice, right? The comparison voice is the one that just kind of scrolls with you and kind of hangs out over your shoulder while you're on Instagram and listening to another podcast that whispers, who do you think you are? She's really doing what you're thinking about doing. She's better at it. Yada, yada, yada. Okay? So that's the comparison voice. The qualification voice says, you don't have enough credentials. You don't have enough certifications. You don't have enough of this. You don't have enough training. You don't have this. You don't have that, which you don't have. So we're going to pick up on the voice of the perfectionist. Okay.
Aldreama Harper, she ready and steady. Organized preneur with a plan, never petty. Dropping gems, got my thoughts feeling heavy. Podcast launch pad where the dreams take flight. Entrepreneurial spirit out of sight, out of mind. Every episode, knowledge taking flight. Getting organized, keep the hustle tight.
Welcome to another episode of the Organized Preneur Podcast, a show where we believe that an organized home, an organized space, an organized business opens the pipeline for creativity that God has placed in you. I'm your host, Aldreama Harper, and I'm so glad that you pressed the play button. All right, if you're new here, just go back to the previous episode and listen to what we were talking about, because it's very important that you hear part 1 to continue part 2. Okay? However, I'm here to help you if you're a podcaster, service-based entrepreneur. You're building something on a real schedule and a real budget. I'm Aldreema, the efficiency architect and fractional COO for podcasters and service-based entrepreneurs, which means I help you to build the systems and the operations that help you make your business run so smoothly. Yeah. All right. I hope you're ready. Let's get into it. All right. So today we're going to continue with part 2. We're talking about the faces of fear, 4 faces of the fear voice, rather. And now, so we've gone through the comparison voice and the qualification voice. Now we're talking about the perfectionism voice. That is a voice that a lot of us are familiar with. When it's ready, when it's perfect, I'm going to launch. When the branding is done, when the website is up, when it looks right, then I'm going to launch. When I have all my equipment, when I have my microphone, when I have my studio, then I'm going to finally launch. When I feel a little bit more confident, then. We both know that then never comes. Because the truth is, perfect readiness is a lie. You never feel fully ready. I have launched many things not fully ready. Not fully ready. It never happens. That's not a bug in the system. That is the design. Faith is spelled R-I-S-K. God has never once in Scripture asked someone to obey him only after they had the perfect clarity, the perfect resources, the perfect confidence, the perfect this or that. He always asks for the step. And then he supplies the rest along the way. Perfect readiness is not the standard. faith movement is the standard. So that is what the perfectionism voice sounds like. Then I'll do this then. Okay, how about number 4? The imposter voice. And this is probably the loudest one that keeps women up at 3 in the morning. Here's my hand. I'm raising it. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. I don't have it anymore. It's the loudest one that keeps us up. That voice says, they're going to find out. They're going to find out that you don't actually know what you're doing. They're going to figure out who you really are. Find out you're figuring it out as you go. Find out you're not the expert you're pretending to be. Gosh, my gosh. Let me tell you something. I wish somebody had told me when I started out. Everyone is figuring it out as they go. Everybody. The most seasoned podcaster that you follow is figuring it out. The most polished coach you look up to is figuring it out. The most successful woman, the most successful man in your niche, all of them are figuring it out as they go. That is what faithful stewardship looks like. That's what faithful stewardship looks like. Faithful stewardship of a calling looks like that. It looks like showing up and learning in public. There's no secret club of women who have it all figured out. There is only a club of women or people who kept going anyway, who kept doing it regardless. That's the whole club. And the door is open. Okay? So, those are the 4 voices, the 4 fear voices: comparison, qualifications, perfectionism, imposter. Now I want to move on to the last segment of this episode. Because now that you know what this voice is and how it looks to disguise itself, let's do something with it. Because knowledge without action is just information. And I didn't build this podcast to give you more information. You can get that online. You can get that from AI. You can get information anywhere. It flows like water. I built this podcast, this episode, to actually help you move. So here's an exercise that I spoke of in part 1. It's like deceptively simple. It's a 2-column exercise. That's it. Grab a piece of paper or open your notes app. I want you to draw a line in the middle of the paper. In the top left-hand corner, I want you to write, fear says this. In the top left-hand corner, okay? In the top right-hand corner, the truth says this. And here's what makes this exercise work so well. Fear does its worst. Now, again, we're still talking about anxiety. I'm not talking about healthy fear, okay? Fear does its worst damage in the dark. As long as the voice says or stays vague, unnamed, floating around in your head like in a cloud, it keeps all of its power. It feels enormous and true and permanent. But the moment you drag it out on paper and force it to be specific, something shifts. It gets smaller. It gets manageable. It becomes a lie that you can actually answer. Okay? So here are the things that I want you to do after you have taken out a piece of paper, put a line in the middle of the paper. Fear says this. Truth says this. Step 1, list the fear in the left column. And I want you to write it down very specifically, that very specific thing that fear has been saying to you about your business, your ministry, your podcast, your whatever it is that you are facing. Not a vague feeling, the actual sentences. Nobody will care. I don't have the equipment. She's already doing that. I'm too old. I'm too new. I don't sound polished enough. Whatever lies are running through your head, get them out and write them down. Do not judge them. Do not defend them. Just get them out of your head and on the page. This one will bring you a strange, immediate relief. Just this alone. Because you've named the enemy. So that's step 1. Step 2, answer with the truth. In the right column, go back through each lie one at a time, write the truth next to it. And here's a rule. The truth cannot be positive thinking fluff. We're not talking about, oh, I just want to be positive. That's not what we're talking about. It's not fluff. It has to be actually true, rooted in evidence, rooted in scripture, rooted in what you know God has said, or what your actual track record shows. So if you put in the left column, nobody will care. God cares. That's true. And the specific women that I'm called to serve, I'm not building for everyone. I'm building for her. She's already doing it better. Becomes she's not doing my assignment. She's doing hers. Both of those matter. Both are needed. Where you may say, I'm not qualified, becomes God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And I already have 20 plus years of lived experience with this. Woo, that will set you free, honey. You see what happens when you do this? Each lie meets its match. It's kind of like a, boxing. TKO, total knockout. Right? When you do this, it meets its match. Each fear finds its truth. And you cannot unsee the truth when you've written it down. The paper becomes something you can hold, something you can return to the next time that voice starts talking. You already answered it. It's not new material. All right. So that was step 2. Step 3, keep the paper. This is the part that most people skip. And I don't want you to skip it. Don't throw the paper away. Don't shred it. Don't close your notes app. Don't forget about it. Keep it where you can find it, because I promise you this. The fear voice does not disappear after one exercise. Guess what? it comes back and changes tactics. It waits for a low day, one of those days where you're at your lowest point, and it tries again. And when it does, you pull out this paper and you say, hey, I already know you. I already answered you. Go find someone else to bother. Get somewhere and sit down. That's what happens. So you got the 3 steps. List the fear. Answer with the truth. Keep the paper. The voice that says, who do you think you are, is not going away. Now, I want to be honest with you about that, okay? It's going to show up again. It's going to try new material. It's going to wait for you to be tired, discouraged, ignored, and then it's going to pounce. That's just the nature of its assignment. Every woman who has ever done anything worth doing has had to keep answering that voice in every season for the rest of her building years in life. This is not to discourage you, but this is just to help strengthen those muscles, because each time it happens, you get stronger and stronger. You'll never let me say it this way. So what changes today, you'll never hear again that voice and mistake it for the truth. So you're going to be strengthened. You're going to be able to recognize that voice because you know what it is. You know what it wants, and you know exactly how to answer it by dragging it into the light and speaking the truth back to the lie. That's not just a productivity tip. That's kingdom warfare done quietly on a piece of paper, in your kitchen, at your desk, in your car, wherever you happen to be when it starts talking. And I don't know what that voice is saying to you. I'm just bringing about some things that are familiar to me. But I know that those voices exist. So the assignment is to do the 2-column exercise, not in your head on paper or a note app, but write it down so you can see it. The left column, like I said, is what fear says. The right column is what truth says. Just take 15 minutes. That's the whole assignment. And I promise you, when you finish, you'll breathe a little differently. Yeah. So if this episode stirred up something in you, if you know deep in your spirit that you're made for more, you're ready to build the thing you've been talking to yourself about, don't miss what's coming up next. Okay? In episode 219, we're going to start on part 2 of the series, Begin. And hopefully that's not confusing. I did divide this particular episode into 2 parts, but that's going to be a whole nother topic. And we'll meet the widow, who's going to teach us how to start with what's already in our hand, because even when we're convinced we have nothing, we do have something. And that episode might be the most important one of this whole series, because I want you to really be equipped. I want you to be prepared. I want you to listen to those voices. I want you to be prepared to answer those voices, recognize the lie versus the truth. Share this episode with a friend. Make sure that you do subscribe, and let's build something together. Now, I always leave with this scripture. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 40. Let all things be done decently and in order. And, and that includes the noise inside of your head. The fear voice does not get the last word. God does. And He already has spoken over your life. Remember, an organized home, an organized space, an organized business opens the pipeline for creativity. Next time on the show, you're going to meet the widow. And everything you thought you didn't have is about to change. Don't miss it. I'll see you in the next episode.
Aldreama Harper, she ready and steady. Organized preneur with a plan, never petty. Dropping gems, got my thoughts feeling heavy. Podcast launch pad where the dreams take flight. Entrepreneurial spirit out of sight, out of mind.